Welcome to In Layman's Terms with Guy Nohra. It's a show that we have which we take some complex issues in the world and we try to make them understandable to our audience so that they can not have to become experts like us, but at least walk away and understand some of the very complex issues we're dealing with today. Our guest today is Dr. Chris Leader. I'm very happy. You know, I could spend probably the half hour just introducing you.
No, don't do that for sure.
Given what I've read, so I'm the three subjects that I really want to get to are obviously you work at America First, the American Dream, the children. Just incredible things that you're doing, and I'm gonna let you take the floor with the introduction, and then we'll just start. We'll go back and forth.
Perfect. Well, first, thank you for having me on your podcast. It's a great privilege, and have been excited about it all week since you asked. And you couldn't be more right that we are in a situation in this country and in our world today where we have been given a situation where the international front is a complete mess. And so we can either be defeated by that or we can look at it as an opportunity. And I think that both you and me like to look at this as an opportunity, that there's great wins that can take place across the world, both for nations that are deeply struggling right now. And I think of the Middle East and the Israel situation that we're working through. I think of Ukraine, Russia. Certainly what's dear to my heart is the nation of Haiti that's been overtaken by gangs. And so we can look at all this and we can create wins for them, but we can do it through an America First perspective. And I think that's what's been lacking in our foreign policy for so many years is how does every decision that we make through the U.S. government while helping others also benefit the American taxpayer that funds our foreign policy. And so I'm excited to dig into some of those things today and then root that back into how does this help every American have equal access and opportunity to achieve the American dream. And I know you've got an American dream story yourself.
Exactly.
And hopefully we hear a little bit about that today as well.
Yeah, I was gonna actually open with the American dream story. You know, it's such an easy definition, yet sometimes some people want to resist allowing that to happen. My story is very simple, and I'm going to make it incredibly short here. Got here at 15 years of age from Lebanon. And
not an easy place to come from.
During the Civil War is when I left. And I was involved in the Civil War myself at a very young age. But then, I came to the U.S. and I was accepted, and immediately people opened up to me. So I went to high school here, I went to college here, I started my own business, and I even ran for governor 2 years ago. So when you're talking about the American dream, I've lived it, but more importantly, I want every person in our country to have the opportunity to live it. And that's all I'm working on these days. So please tell me your perspective of the same thing.
No, I think that's fantastic. I have the privilege at the America First Policy Institute of being the director of our Center for the American Dream, alongside our chairman, Dr. Alveda King, of course, niece of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and she likes to quote often that Martin, on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial here, said, "I have a dream." And then he followed it up. He said, "It is rooted in the American dream." And the reason that he said that, I think, is because he understood that we needed to have equal access and opportunity for all Americans to pursue it, regardless of skin color or religion. Of course, we've had a terrible tragedy even this week here in D.C., where 2 Israeli embassy workers were shot and murdered by a Free Palestine activist. And what I want to say is that I want Palestinian Americans, I want Israeli Americans, I want all Americans to be able to live out what you and I live out. I came from a home that was not a wealthy home. I went to private school in high school, but had to work at the school to help my parents afford the tuition for that school. And that's the beauty of America, is if we get our hands dirty, we get in the trenches, we work, we fight, we have some grit about us, It doesn't matter where you come from, what you look like, you can achieve the American dream, and it's different for each of us, right? What my dream is different from your dream, but I think the path to seeing that dream realized is really the universal for all of us. Personal responsibility, work ethic, and values. And if we can start with that foundation, I think that everyone can experience the American dream. And I really long to see that happen in this nation. The dream is still alive, but it's been through challenges over these last 4 years. And as we begin to fight for everyone, as Martin Luther King said, that we don't look at skin color, but we look at the content of one's character. As we refocus our government's efforts to look at the individual rather than skin color or religion or gender, I think that the American dream can be more alive than ever in these days ahead.
You know, it's perfect what you said, because I'm going to build on two things that you mentioned. You know, first of all, I was very involved in President Trump's campaign in the state of Nevada. And I gave speeches every time when he came to town, or when Vice President Vance came to town. I was one of the speakers. And I always talked about how the American dream is so difficult, to your point, over the last 4 years, with inflation, with back-breaking rules. You know, I would bring that up in these situations. But one thing that I want our listeners to know is that I wish and I hope that everybody understands that when we're talking about the American dream, it is about America. Yeah. I've lived all over the world. I have done business all over the world. It's not that easy. As you said, here, anyone coming from anywhere in the world, you can come in, and you can come from Nigeria and become a neurosurgeon. You can come from Korea and become an MIT teacher. You can come from anywhere in the world. We can't do that, and no one else can do that anywhere else. Right. It's very hierarchical. It's based on money and connections and whatever aristocracy exists. Some places are changing, but there's nothing like this. And I think we need to fight very, very hard to keep that.
No, I think you're absolutely right. At America First, we have a Center for 1776. It's led by Coach Lou Holtz, legendary Coach Lou Holtz.
Notre Dame.
And the whole idea is restoring patriotic history back into America, because there's this movement in America today, and it was very alive over the last 4 years in the previous administration, that we should apologize for who we are, that we shouldn't be proud of who we are. And the reality is, those of us who have traveled around the world, I can't tell you how many African nations I've been in where you drive down the road and the street names are after American presidents. And it's for no other reason than America has been a pillar of hope for the world, and especially the developing world, for the last century plus. And there's a reason why so many individuals want to migrate to America. I don't think it would be accurate to say that everyone wants to come to America, but I think the vast majority of the world, if they were given the opportunity, would want to set up shop here. And it's because there's equal opportunity for all people. I like to say that the ground is level for achieving the American dream. And it's not like that anywhere else in the world. Even some of the greatest and wealthiest nations around the world cannot touch the freedom of opportunity that we have in America. And so instead of being ashamed of this or apologizing for it, let's understand there is something great about this nation. It's a nation that's let you rise to where you've risen. I've come along and it would not have been possible in other places. It certainly wasn't possible in Lebanon as you were going through. There's a reason you came here. And I think your story is like so many immigrant stories that I hear across the country. And it's they're here because of the opportunity. They're here because of all that they can accomplish. And they don't have to come in with great wealth in order to build that generationally for themselves and their families.
Exactly. And I think and I'm now seeing the people you just described, people such as myself. We have to be the tip of the spear.
That's right.
In defending the American dream, because, as you said, the last 4 years has become a little bit of a negative, and I don't understand why. So we have to be the ones to defend it, because other people can't, because they're going to be called names.
That's right.
And they're going to be has adjectives, but you can't call me names.
Nope.
Given my experience.
I'll give you a great example. I have a barber shop I go to in South Florida. It's a Cuban-owned shop. They've got multiple shops. The owner came across from Cuba, 30, 40 years ago, became a citizen through legal means. And he is so tired of hearing how bad America is because he came from an oppressive land and he came with nothing. And his family has built great businesses and wealth for themselves. And he literally put up in his barbershop in South Florida pictures of President Trump. And he's had customers be very upset about this. Yeah. And he said, no, you don't understand. It's because of men like Donald J. Trump that individuals like myself can come across from a communist nation 90 miles off the coast of South Florida, and my family thrives today in this country as American citizens.
Yes.
And I think that's the stories that we need to get out. I think you're right. Your story, his story. Yes. There are millions of these stories of immigrants who have come to this land fleeing lands that were oppressive and rejected their opportunity. And now they're thriving in this country, and they're doing so legally as United States citizens.
Exactly.
And he said to me, while he was cutting my hair, he said, I was never more proud than the day that I stood up and gave the American pledge as a U.S. citizen for the first time.
Amazing. It's part of my campaign speech, and it gets the most applause, of course. When I say at 23, I became an American, a legal American, and one of the proudest days of my life. Absolutely.
And Lou Holtz says it this way. He says, we want to have open arms in this country, but we have to have law and we have to have process. Sure. But then he follows it up by saying this. He says it every time he speaks, anywhere I've been with him. He says, when you come to America, you need to become us, not us become you.
Of course.
And that's something that the left is missing today. They want Americans to become all of these other things. Well, the problem is when we begin to pursue that agenda, it destroys the very thing that makes America so much of a desire for these individuals to come to.
And all of us that have come here, we've come from these places where people were different and looked at differently. You know, it's called balkanization in certain examples. I can tell you in Lebanon, that's what it was, a very sectarian. So here we are, I think, melting pot.
That's right.
A melting pot has to have the right formulas in order to have the melting pot. So this whole ignoring laws and just opening up things like they did with the border is to me bordering on self-loathing as a nation, which doesn't make any sense because we are the greatest nation on earth.
No, it comes across to me as just straight anti-American. And that's the beauty of this America First movement. In my view, we now have a permanent home for the America First movement. We talk about that a lot at the America First Policy Institute, that it's not just about one administration. It's about the next 100 years and how we can redirect the focus of the U.S. government to serve the interests of the American people. And I've been so excited to see the DOGE efforts that have gone through. It's been overtly popular with the American people once you leave D.C. and the bubble here in the swamp, to see an emphasis from an administration that actually puts an emphasis on efficiency and spending your money and my money in the most appropriate ways that actually advance our interests. And I think that's where we need to be, is responsibility from this government and all governments to the individuals that are funding the government.
And I wanted to transition to something else that you do that I think is very important. And please tell me if I didn't interpret it right. Transforming the cultures through faith.
Yes.
We can't lose that. We can't lose... When I read it, I was just fascinated by it because to me, there are some basic. Every society in the world from day one has moral values.
That's right.
That they establish, and somehow again we've kind of lost track of that a little bit. So if you can tell me about your initiative,
Absolutely.
I'd love to hear it and tell us our audience about that.
Yeah, no, I think it's so critical. I come from a Christian background, and so I have a clear set of moral values that we derive from the foundations of scriptures. The Jewish faith, we share half of our scriptures, right? And so we have that same moral boundaries and foundation. And whatever faith that you come from, the beauty of America is that we are open to all faiths being able to express themselves. Unfortunately, in America, there has been an anti-Christian bias.
Yes.
And so we've seen through Attorney General Bondi and some of her efforts and executive order of the president, a task force formed to fight anti-Christian bias. And as a Christian, I would say I don't want more rights than any other individual practicing their faith. But I certainly don't want less rights either, especially coming from the faith of the foundation of our founding fathers. I think that's important. So I have the perspective, and I think many in America have the perspective, regardless of their faith, that the way that culture is transformed is through faith. We say it like this politically. We can change laws, but until we change hearts and minds, we haven't actually achieved anything. Yeah. And so I think through, I work significantly in the pro-life effort. Sure. And of course, Dr. Alveda King, who I work with, has been a champion for pro-life since 1983. She's testified before Congress on this issue.
You know, Frank Pavone was one of my
I love Father. I was with him last night.
Were you?
I was.
We discussed the papacy and the conclave, and he was one of my guests, and he was one of my favorite.
He's fantastic. Of course, Alveda worked for Priest for Life for 17 years.
I didn't know that. Okay.
They went to Pope John Paul II together to the Vatican City and worked on peace efforts with the Pope. Okay. And so in the pro-life effort, we can change laws, and we've had massive wins for life over the course of really the last 4 years. Roe v. Wade ceased to become the law of the land just over 2 years ago. We'll celebrate 3 years here next month. And yet, if we don't change the hearts and minds on the issue of abortion, then we really haven't fixed the issue. States have passed laws to protect life and to protect mothers and women, to build families, to empower families, to fund families. But until we make abortion unthinkable in our land, we haven't actually changed culture. And so that's where faith plays such a vital role. From my perspective and my faith background, I believe that the only thing that transforms culture permanently is a relationship with Jesus Christ. I think that's the foundation. And so a lot of the work that I do, both politically and outside of politics, is seeing culture transformed at this intersection of faith and culture. Because when we provide hope for the individual, hope changes everything. Yes. And becomes the foundation for prosperity. It becomes the foundation for morality in our nation, which then results in changing criminal justice and all of the other off-ramps that come through hope. And so I think we need to restore to hope, and it comes back to that American dream. Yep. That when we know where we're going and we set an ideal, it changes the course of how we get there.
So I have a question on this, on the pragmatic side, having been in the political arena. It feels to me that in many states, and for many voters, it's a one issue. It's a one issue. They're one issue voters. Yep. And it's choice. Yep. And it's been politically very difficult for our side. No matter, we use common sense. We say, in this state it's okay for already in the Constitution.
That's right.
And I find that I use a football analogy all the time. To them, the choice issue is running power, and it works every time for 6 to 7 yards. So you're gonna go the way down the field. My question has always been, how do you stop power in this sense? And I know you're in the midst of it. So how do you stop power?
I think we're actually coming into a really good place on this issue, where voters are able to separate out their personal thoughts on abortion. And we see that Florida was a great test case. There were constitutional amendments on the ballot significantly this last election cycle. George Soros literally would go into these states to get it on the ballot. And he went into the states with the philosophy that if he could bring people together on that issue, then people would turn out and vote. And especially early on, before President Biden dropped out of the race, there was a significant concern about voter turnout on the left. And so this became the strategy of getting people to turn out. Well, it didn't work. In the vast majority of those states, the constitutional amendments didn't pass. And it was because, in my opinion, the American people have gotten over the lies that the right is wanting to come against the mother, the woman's rights, all of these things. And I think a lot of that credit goes to building a new narrative that we want to not only fight for the rights of the baby, we want to fight for the rights of the mother. We want these mothers to thrive. And whether they keep that child and raise that child or they give that child up for adoption, we want to give them every resource to succeed. We did a lot of polling at the America First policy on this leading up to the Dobbs decision in 22. And what we found is that 73% of Americans believe that there are two lives involved in any abortion, the life of the mother and the life of the baby. That's a dramatic change since the 90s, when really the life of the child was not a consideration across the board. The other thing that we found through our polling, and our lead pollster, Scott Rasmussen, certainly Kellyanne Conway, who leads our polling at America First, great pollsters with great integrity
Rasmussen
as well.
He was the only one that was correct consistently.
He is,
this last time,
because he doesn't shift the surveys and the polls to meet his narrative. He wants to see what people actually think.
Exactly.
Which used to be the desire of pollsters. Yeah. It's changed a little bit now. We found that 71% of Americans believe that there should be legal limits to abortion, meaning the vast majority of Americans have now come to understand we shouldn't be killing babies in the womb at the 7th, 8th, 9th month of pregnancy. In fact, about 92% of Americans are strongly opposed to end of pregnancy abortion. And so there's a shift in America. I think that the left has read the room wrong, and they thought that this would be their issue, that they could provide voter turnout and come against the Republican Party. And they found very conclusively that there is a shift politically in how voters vote, and where it used to be a single issue narrative, and they'd love for it to still be a single issue narrative. Voters have woken up to the lie that the left is a party of the blue collar worker, that the left is the pro middle class party. It's just not the reality anymore. The Republican Party has become the blue-collar worker party. They've become the party of the middle class.
Of the American dream?
In providing this equal access and opportunity. And so what I think that we're seeing, and it may be too early to know this, but I think we're seeing this, that voters are putting aside some of their social viewpoints and looking more practically, what candidates are going to allow my family to thrive? What candidates are going to provide an atmosphere of deregulation so that we can see our businesses thrive? What candidates are going to make eggs cheaper on the shelf? And we've seen this so clearly. I've worked for Secretary Brooke Rollins for the last 4 years.
Sure.
Of course, she's the founder and was the president of America First Policy Institute, now the Secretary of Agriculture. The egg prices have been cut in almost a fourth of what they were from Election Day.
I mean,
and we're only 120 days into this administration. And it comes strictly from a foundational philosophy that the elected officials in this government exist not to serve the system. They exist to serve the individual constituent.
Exactly.
And that's what we're seeing in America. And I think voters have woken up and seen that. And I think they're voting in accordance with that.
It's amazing. I mean, I'm an economist as well, and expectations. Once we knew who our president was, what our administration looked like, the price of eggs immediately came down when the actual demand and supply issues haven't changed.
No, if anything, the demand has gone up because we're exporting eggs.
Exactly. They can't change that fast because by definition, the economy lags. So last subject, because I know it's very important to you, Haiti and children. I speak French, obviously. So every once in a while, I get in fun discussions with cab drivers in New York that are from Haiti.
Oh, I'm sure.
But please tell me about you. It sounds like a very noble mission, and I want to hear about it.
Yeah, it's certainly a passion there. I call it my passion project, Haiti specifically. I've been working in Haiti for over 15 years now, specifically in the feeding realm. As you know, the food insecurity in Haiti, it could not be worse. The UN has declared that over 50% of the population is, quote, one step from starvation. Food insecurity is at a point of about 2/3 of the island not knowing where their next meal is coming from. And this is an issue in large part that's come from the gang activity that's overtaken specifically Port-au-Prince, but other areas of the island. And we had a great win just under 2 weeks ago. President Trump and Secretary Rubio were able to declare for the first time that these gangs are now designated as foreign terrorists, which means that they can now be dealt with, which is a really important thing. And I think there's two areas that Americans should be looking at Haiti. There's certainly the humanitarian realm. This is an island that is very close to our nation, both geographically and in the hearts of Americans. We have a significant amount of Haitian Americans in America. And so we should be concerned when we see tens of thousands and even millions of Haitians at the verge of death from starvation. But from a practical standpoint, I think that America has significant interests in Haiti. We're seeing over the last 10 plus years really an incursion from China into Haiti. And so we know from the late 90s and early 2000s, China went into Africa, and they were very wise in what they did. They wrote up deals, very short-term deals for the African nations, providing water and infrastructure, et cetera, in exchange for the mineral rights of those countries. And it gave China a lockhold on the continent of Africa. They're now doing that in Haiti. Haiti has rare earth minerals, and China's come in and they're dangling infrastructure and water and food and these types of things in there. But then we also see Russia now coming into Haiti. And so we have two significant superpowers from around the world that oftentimes are not the friend of the United States.
Adversaries,
and they're setting up shop right off of our territories here in South Florida. And so we need to be looking at those things. We also need to look at the impact of the instability in Haiti on immigration and migration to the United States. There has been a massive uptick in Haitians illegally immigrating into the United States via the southern border because of the distress that's going on in that country. And so I'm excited to see an America First approach come out for Haiti with the Root Foundation, that if we enable Haiti to be in a situation where they can thrive, we won't be in a situation of the illegal immigration coming across because they'll want to stay in the country. I have the conviction that every individual, if they're in a situation of opportunity in their native country, will want to stay in their homeland. And so that's the mindset shift that we need to go to in the days ahead.
And as much as you can share, what's your role going to be in that in these efforts?
Absolutely. Well, I certainly am passionate about seeing a new paradigm of U.S. Haitian involvement. The Secretary Rubio and the President know my passion in this area. Alveda King and others have been great advocates for me taking a more significant role in the days ahead in Haiti. And at the end of the day, I have this conviction. For decades, the American people have served Haiti, have funded Haiti, have invested in Haiti. I currently, through a partnership with multiple NGOs, am feeding 131,500 kids in Haiti a day through our nutrition program. And so we're invested. And so I have the mindset that because of the investment that we have made historically in Haiti, as we begin to look at the next chapter for Haiti, American investors should be benefiting from what Haiti can become. I like to remind people that it's not been that long ago that the Dominican Republic, that shares the same island with Haiti, was in the exact same situation that Haiti is in today.
Yeah.
And yet today, about 80% of their GDP is tourism, because there was an investment into the hospitality and tourism sectors there. And it's happened over the course of decades to a place where it's a main destination, vacation destination for the Caribbean. And that too can happen in Haiti. It's the same beaches, it's the same oceans, it's the same island. And I believe that we can chart a course in partnership with the Haitian government that shows American business investors great incentives to invest in Haiti, so that we can build really a vacation mecca in Haiti that the Dominican Republic is experiencing today. And from my perspective, Americans should have first right of refusal at that investment, because we've been so involved in lifting that nation over the course of the last 40, 50, 60 years in America.
Sure. And from, will you be moving there? Will you be from here to there?
We will see. It is yet to be written. I have made clear to the admin that I'm all in with Haiti, that any way that I can serve at any capacity, the answer is yes. And whether it's serving here in D.C., building policies that can advance the Haitian-American perspective, or being right there in Port-au-Prince, I am happy to serve and eager to see a day where Haiti first isn't under this incredible oppression from these gangs. But even more importantly, I can't wait to see the day where Haiti is thriving economically, educationally, and where instead of migrating there, we have Americans that want to go and do business in Haiti. And that's how we begin to reshape this perspective of helping countries that are in dire straits from an America First perspective. And I'm seeing that happen in Haiti. I'm seeing it happen throughout Africa, certainly through the Middle East, where you're so activated, is we can help nations. But we have to do so through an America First perspective. It's not America only, and the president's been so clear about this, but it is America first. And I believe, I have the strong conviction that as we pursue a foreign policy that's American first, it actually empowers all of the nations across the world. And we see that in this, in the peace that we just brought between Pakistan and India, in the ceasefire that I pray holds, and in the ceasefire that we're about to see in the Ukraine-Russia. When America has an America First perspective across the world, we see peace come to all lands. And I'm excited to see that, and I cannot wait to see that in Israel and throughout the Middle East. I work a lot in Armenia, which has had so much strife with Azerbaijan in recent years, and even historically through the genocide in the 1920s. And so I believe that when we have a strong America, and when the American foreign policy prioritizes Americans, that it actually provides peace through all nations. And I think that's what we're going to see in the days ahead.
You know, I could talk to you about Haiti and the how to get it done for hours, because that's fascinating. You know, you need political stability, you need a military that's going to hold, you need a police.
Right.
But to your point of the America First policy, but not America Only policy, what always struck me about the previous administration was the timidity about American power.
That's right.
There is a reluctance to use your power to do things in the world.
It's almost that we're ashamed of our power.
Exactly. Which is the absolute opposite. If you're the big kid on the block, you have a moral responsibility for the rest of the people. Not you don't bow down and get embarrassed by it. And I could never understand that view of, and by the way, that goes back to even before Biden. I mean,
Absolutely.
Obama was the same way.
That's right.
I don't understand why there's this again, almost reluctance to, this would be like me doing a business negotiation, selling one of my companies.
That's right.
And basically telling the buyer, hey, pay me as little as you want.
Exactly.
I'll take the deal. It just doesn't make any sense. Human nature, and it definitely doesn't make sense with regards to international relations and diplomacy and our power.
That's right.
What do you attribute that to? Is this a
I really do think it's a shame. I think that the left is ashamed of who America is, and is running from the reality. But no matter how much they run, America is still the greatest nation of the world, and it's the most powerful nation in the world. There's a reason that we have seen so many nations. I think we're up to 100+ nations that are seeking trade deals with us right now. And it's because we're the greatest market in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what's happened is, whether it's over shame or embarrassment or, I think some on the left have a desire to destroy this nation. What happens in that period of time is it creates a vacuum for bad actors to do bad things.
As we saw over the
Ukraine,
last 4
Russia
years.
is a great example.
Yep. Gaza.
We gave Iran billions of dollars.
Yep.
And immediately saw Israel attacked.
Yep.
Like these vacuums do not serve anyone. They certainly don't serve the American interest, but they're destroying these nations as well. And so we've got to get to a point where, like, it's okay to be proud of who we are and to understand we are the greatest nation in the world. I can't imagine an American not feeling that way. But we can also do the greatest good in the world by providing that stability.
Exactly.
And you see, over the first Trump administration, Putin would have never aggressed. Never would have happened. And I actually think that Iran and its proxy states would have never aggressed against Israel, because there was a clear understanding. If you touch Americans or American interests, you will deal with me.
Yes.
And they knew what that looked like. We hear stories a lot. I had the privilege of working with General Keith Kellogg over the last 4 years.
Yes.
He's, of course, now the U.S. envoy to the Ukraine, ending that conflict. And it was not uncommon for the president to have satellite surveillance of individual leaders' homes that he would show them.
There's the famous story, right? Walking out of the room and giving the guy, this is where you live.
And they knew why he gave it to them. If you touch a hair on the head of an American, or you damage American interests, we know where to find you.
Exactly.
And that strength provided incredible peace. And we can look at ISIS and how that was defeated so quickly. So many examples. And, of course, President Trump has been a hero internationally. But so many other of our conservative presidents have provided that stability through strength. Reagan was famous for it, of course. And we saw the end of the Cold War and the collapse of the Soviet Union. And so I think that's where we have to get our mindset. It's okay for us to be the most powerful in the world, but only if we'll take that responsibility very seriously and utilize it to not only serve the interests of the American people, but also to provide international stability.
You know, it's amazing. We mirror exactly the same thing. Everything you just said is exactly how I feel. We are the most powerful. We have the best of intentions.
That's right.
And there's no reason why we should ever run away from our responsibilities.
That's right.
We have moral, as much as, some people want to wash their hands, we have moral responsibilities toward some of the things that happen in the world because we happen to be the nation that we are and who we are. And it's something we cannot run away from. And I don't understand, again, how I can see the fringe on the other side, feeling, all of the crazy fringe things that we see, the 20%. But to have a Secretary of State that will turn their back on our biggest ally makes, or to threaten indirectly our biggest ally in the world, just to me was just so frustrating to watch. And
of course,
we dodged. By the way, we dodged the bullet.
And dangerous.
We dodged the bullet, and the rest of the world, this could be the domino in the positive way for the rest of the developed westernized world.
That's
because, as you know, and I know, France and England and Italy, and they all have the same kind of issues. Germany. And we could be the ones that this could be the election, thanks to your organization.
I think we are the only ones, right, that can do it. And we saw this in the Congo. President Trump, it's not in the news,
Yeah.
but he's built peace in the Congo.
Yes.
In that war that's happened over the course of the last few decades.
Yes.
I mean, and that's where American strength can benefit all people.
Yes.
And that is an America First foreign policy.
Exactly. And again, to me, what's really important as a proud new American is it's embedded in our morality as the city on the hill.
That's right.
All of these amazing words that have come out of our culture, since we began, it's embedded in us to be the good guy.
That's right.
And I mean this in generic, not just one person or a male person. Just that's who we are, and that's
right.
what people perceive us to be. As you say, mostly not the intellectuals, but most normal people everywhere in the world. I have taxi drivers. I travel everywhere. That's usually how the pollster, Rasmussen does.
You get a good read.
I do taxi drivers. 80% of taxi drivers would say, initially, this is all over Europe. You're from America, yes. And then you tell a little bit of hesitation, and then eventually the word, who are you going to vote for? I go, not only am I going to vote for, I'm actually campaigning for President Trump. What a great choice. The world needs this. This is what we need today. We need your leadership. Taxi driver, who, by the way, is probably foreign to the country I'm in. Right? So this is probably a Syrian taxi driver in Paris who's telling me that you and President Trump are the most important beacon of hope for the world. Somehow, I wish if I can just spend every day of my life telling these stories, so that Americans, especially the ones in the middle, that's our show it's called Layman's Terms, because they're the people that are raising their families, taking their kids to soccer, paying their taxes. They don't have time to focus like you and I on these issues, but they should have time and energy to realize how important who we are, what we are, and how we can help the world, because that's our destiny.
It is. And I want to thank you for providing this atmosphere, not only to tell your own story, which I believe can be transformative for so many people, but communicating directly to the masses why these things matter. Americans typically don't dive deep right into the nitty-gritty of policy areas, and yet all of these decisions matter. And so we're in a season that I'm very optimistic about, where we have the House, we have the Senate, we have the White House. Now we have a responsibility to really deliver for the American people, and I really see that happening on a daily basis. I've never seen a more focused and quick administration than this one, and so I think there's great optimism for people. But we have midterms coming up next year.
Yeah, that's important.
And it's easy to revert, and so I'm just grateful that you're providing an opportunity for the everyday American to hear why it matters, because it's going to be critical going into next year that all of America understands how this administration and this philosophy of America First is really helping them on a daily basis.
And exactly, and that we, despite the usual trends of midterm elections, we have to beat this. And from my perspective, your organization has been amazing.
Well, thank you.
When I follow, I'm the wonk, and that's why I want to teach people things. But every single time there's a fight for us, it's led by your organization. There came a point where I was. This is the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
And it continues, by the way.
Yeah, we just celebrated our 4-year anniversary.
Yeah.
And we're not going anywhere, which is great. And we have probably a collection of the greatest American patriots in America today. And of course, 9 of them are cabinet level officials now in the Trump admin. We just had a news report go out. 73 of our staff and alumni are now in the administration. And and yet we're on the outside fighting still. We continue to grow the organization, to grow the impact, to release new initiatives that will help advance American interests both here and around the world. And we're not going anywhere. So we're here to fight for Americans, and we won't rest until we have a permanent and long-standing understanding of America first in this nation.
And we thank you, all of us. We thank you because it's crucial work, and it's probably a record for an organization in 4 years to do what you've done.
It is, and I'm telling you, Brooke Rollins, Secretary Rollins, Secretary McMahon, Larry Kudlow, all of them have been such champions, and I think they mirror the president's energy and speed.
Steve Miller.
Steve Miller. Steve's fantastic.
How amazing. You know how much, I'll tell you on our side, the silent majority, if you like, when he gets on and takes on the press, not by being a lot smarter than they are, but also with facts and so articulate. Every American, every real American at that moment is silently clapping, because it's just we're so proud that somebody's speaking up for us.
That's right. Well, common sense has returned to American politics.
Yes.
And so it turns out that what everyday Americans are seeing, like our political leaders are there now too. And so
finally.
I mean, it doesn't make sense that we weren't, but we are there now.
Exactly.
And common sense will prevail. And honestly, I actually am hopeful that even the Democratic Party will read the room, allow common sense to come back into their party, and be a party that actually cares about the American people again.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great win for America. But until then, we're here and ready to lead.
We're going to fight.
That's right.
They can be the loyal opposition, which is what they should be, which is what people do in general in this world. But they've gone way. I mean, we don't want to
off the cliff.
Way off. It's just. But anyway, so back to us. Thank you so much for your time, Doctor. This has been so much fun. And by the way, I want to spend time one-on-one at some point.
Absolutely.
Armenia. From Lebanon, Armenia. I know the story very, very well. I pay attention to what happened over there.
Mm-hmm.
The genocide. It was a genocide.
That's
it's still
2
not
million.
100%. If you do it on a per capita basis and so on. It was the first Christian kingdom.
That's right.
Way back when. They do have. I was in Jerusalem recently. One of the most incredible experiences in my life. If you haven't done it, I think you should. There's an Armenian quarter.
Oh, fantastic! I haven't been.
They were so old. You have to. There's nothing like it. Spiritually, it's amazing. But there's an Armenian quarter over there. Everybody jockeys, but even though they're this minority in general within Christianity, they have their own quarters. And
I love that.
It's a great story, and you need to go, if anything, just for the spiritual, the wall. And walking where Jesus walked, and realizing, I was very emotional for probably 4 hours.
Wow.
And it's actually called Jerusalem syndrome, where religious people sometimes go there and they get overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, on this note, again, we're gonna meet again and catch up.
Yes, sir.
I'd love to do that, I promise. And I wish you the best. And anything I can do to help, given my resume, whether it's business things, French, any to help you personally, please feel free to contact me.
I appreciate that.
I'm a one text away, no matter where I am in the world.
I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, and thanks. We went over, but I couldn't. I could have gone another hour.
Okay, me too.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks.